Imagine that you are sitting in art class, your favorite class of the day. You are so excited to draw, paint, and create anything that your heart desires. Then your teacher tells you that you have to paint a tree. Well, fine, not your strong suit, but you can still make something interesting. Then your teacher says it has to be an oak tree. Well, fine, you'll do it, but only to get a good grade. You'll still change it up to make it something different and interesting, like pop art Andy Warhol. Your teacher says, no, it has to be a regular oak tree with green leaves and a brown trunk. Just like that, all of your creativity is stripped away, gone, and with that, all aspirations of ever wanting to become an artist. When things like this happen, kids become discouraged and don't want to try new things. Now, my name is Ellen Pruitt, and I present to you how schools are shutting down kids' creativity. This, as many of you may know, is a rubric. It states the assignment, what you have to do, and what you need to do to get a good or even decent grade. Rubrics like this can limit what kids do. Some may argue that if you had no rubrics, there would be no basis for grading expectations. Nothing would ever be accomplished. I agree. Grades would be meaningless. But the trade-off of using rubrics is that kids are confined to one thing. They won't learn how to do anything else or anything different. Take a quick glance at this picture and you'll see that all of the kids are painting the same thing, identical replications of the original painting. While there is something to be learned from imitating a great artist, what if you are the next artist who's just waiting to be set free and be allowed to find new techniques that the world has never before seen? Look at this picture, and you'll see that the kids are experimenting and creating. They're figuring out what works best and what doesn't work so well. When you're young, you don't have anything to worry about. You just try things and hope that they worked. Up in the corner, you can see that there are other examples of their artwork. They're all colorful and fun. They weren't thinking, oh, maybe this isn't realistic or maybe the sun isn't red. They were just trying and experimenting. In the words of a fellow student, heart rate monitors make exercise seem boring, useless, and repetitive. For those of you who don't know what this is a heart rate monitor. It's a device that you strap onto your wrist to use to track your heart rate. There are a series of lights that go on, depending on what your heart rate is at. When the red light is on, that means you get 5 points per minute, which will add up to your total grade. When it's at pink, it's 3 points per minute, and when it's blue, it's at 1 point per minute. Here at Grandview, we have this exact copy, and we have to get to 100 points per minute. Instead of focusing on doing the actual activity, kids are focusing on how many jumping jacks they can do and what will get their heart rate up, instead of learning about sportsmanship and teamwork. I took a survey from my fellow students, and I asked them if they felt like the school has ever limited their creativity through anything that they did. And 10 out of the 12 students said yes. That would mean that the pink part means yes, and the purple part means no. That's a significant difference between those who have felt like they've been denied their rights to creativity and those who have had no prior experience with that denial. These are the words of the students who answered their survey as well. Among the issues that were brought up were the dress code, forced presentations, art classes, and the overall class atmosphere in the schools. I wanted to bring up one particular experience that a student had when she was in first grade, and it was when she was drawing a fish. The teachers told her she couldn't color the fish how she wanted to, and that made her not want to be creative anymore. This was a survey that 5 different countries answered, and an average of 59% of them said that they felt like this education system was stifling their creativity, which means that this creativity crisis, as it has been deemed before, is not just a problem in the United States, it's a problem in all corners of the globe. This was a test that was taken by employers over what they thought would be the most important leadership quality for employees in the next 5 years. And right at the top, with 60% of votes, is creativity. If we feel so strongly that this is a quality that we need to instill on our young children, then why do we discourage it so much in the schooling systems? This was an experiment that was conducted by a group of scientists with a group of kids from age 5 to age 31. Here they are at age 5 with 98%, then 5 years later at 30%, 2/3 less. Then 5 more years later, 12%, roughly 1/3 less, and then 16 more years later, and they're at 2%. So what happened between that time? Well, somewhere along the line, they must have been discouraged from doing what they thought was good or doing something wrong. These gears are like a child's mind, working constantly to figure out the world. Kids need to experience new things, and to do that, they have to get out. From 2002 to 2007, field trips decreased nearly 30%, which means that they aren't able to get out. And for kids with attention disorders, such as ADHD, it's boring in the classrooms, looking at a board all day. This brain accurately demonstrates the 2 different sides of the brain. Here, we have the left side, which is more geometrically inclined and analytical. Your You're better at math and sciences if you use your left brain more. There's nothing wrong with that. But then on the right side of the brain, you're more creative, you're better at languages, you're good at language arts, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You can take many tests online to figure out which side you are. Some people are both. But teachers always tell us we have to use our whole brains. But really, when we're in school, we're only using the left side. We always have to get everything right, and the best you can get is an A, which is 100%. But really, you have to make mistakes to learn. So we're not using our whole brains. Up until this point, I've mainly talked about how creativity affects academic abilities and art. But really, it affects everything. It affects inventing, acting, singing, everything you think of. Everything stems from creativity. This is the creative process. Everyone does this at some point or another in your life. First, you research, you get visions and ideas, and then inspiration. You're thinking, you're brainstorming, and you're designing. What do all of these things have in common? You guessed it, creativity. If you didn't have creativity in this process, it would just be another process. It would be like all other processes. Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which one to keep. Scott Adams. I read this quote and I thought, why? Why in school are we always told that we have to get everything right, that you have to take the standardized test, you have to complete everything on time, everything has to be perfect? If we're supposed to make mistakes to learn, but we're in school and we're learning to do everything exactly right, we're not actually learning because we're not making any mistakes, or we're told that we can't make any mistakes. So this problem that has been building up for years and years, how do we plan to solve it? Well, one thing that we could do is allow kids free reign on our projects, so that would make them more creative. Then, you could let kids be creative in whatever they feel like. You could let them do anything in gym. You wouldn't have to have heart rate monitors or anything to make them more active. Lastly, you could take away strict rubrics. You could still have some rubrics, but you could also have less strict ones so that kids won't be as confined. Thank you for your time.